Drum machines and grooveboxes. Drum machines and grooveboxes. Drum machines and grooveboxes. Hey everybody, I'm Grant Hires, and welcome back to Hardtek Studios. Today we're going to be doing Hardtek Studios Tour Part 3, Grooveboxes and Drum Machines. First off, we have the Volca Beats, and man, it can do some beats. It is mostly analog. There are some PCM noises in here. I'm not sure if there's a separate line going from the analog voices to the output. That way, if you're not using any PCM voices, you don't get any digital, A to D to D to A conversion. I'm really not sure about that. So it kind of depends on this if this is a real analog drum machine. Not sure. But it has analog kick, analog snare, analog low and high tom, analog closed and open hi-hat. But then in addition, you get a bunch of digital voices. You've got it's clap, clavs, a go-go, crash. And then on top of that, you've got this stutter effect, which really sounds like delay, but it's not. It's actually just adding extra sequencer steps at different velocities, which is a shame because this drum machine does not have normal velocity control. All the kicks are going to be as loud as any other ones. All the snares are going to be same. So there's not a whole bunch of dynamics to this machine. But it was really, really affordable, really cheap, and it does its job well and has a really good kick. You can also modify the heck out of it too. Extra outputs, extra controls, all kinds of stuff. So a fully modded one of these can really do some special stuff. Next up, we have a newcomer to the analog drum machine world, one that is fully freaking analog. The Akai Tomcatt. This thing is pretty cool. It's brand new. It's got a really, really, really powerful sequencer on it, especially for the price, about 200 bucks. It's got analog kick, snare, clap, hi-hat close and open, and a tunable tom section where you could actually play the toms chromatically. It's got some really cool sounds to it. For some reason, the Akai Rhythm Wolf, Tomcatt, in general the Akai Groovebox family has been getting a lot of hate. Especially people who are into the Volcas. I guess you can't like both sides, but whatever. I'll like whatever makes a cool noise. Anything. It has some really, really nice feeling pads. Really nice MPC style. It is Akai. A lot more patterns in the Volcas. Lots of hands-on controls, volume, and one of the best parts, the maul knob, which is just it's a distortion amount knob, but it really, really, really dirties things up. Alright, for my very last dedicated drum machine that doesn't have any kind of synth parts added to it, or bass lines or anything, I have the Akai SR16 circuit bent version. This drum machine, without being circuit bent, is fairly powerful and has some pretty good sounds in it. So it is a great starting point to really crank things out with all these cool switches and buttons and all. The cool thing about this drum machine that a lot of drum machines don't have is 2 auxiliary outputs. So you can have 2 stereo mixes or a stereo mix and 2 individual outs. It also has inputs for some foot pedals. So you could perform this thing live while your hands were busy with other stuff, whether it be knobs, keys, guitars, jingle bells, whatever. Very cool drum machine, made way, 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 way cooler with circuit bending, especially if you're into chip tunes and industrial. But yeah, get with the program, get circuit bent. And here we have the Akai Rhythm Wolf. It is the predecessor to the Akai Tomcatt, and again, it is a fully analog beast. It has all the same features and sequencer and all that, with the exception of different voices. This is a completely different style of kick drum, different style of snare drum, completely new percussion voice, which is, if you don't know how to be creative, it can be kind of like, well, it's a metronome sound. But if you get creative, it can be pretty cool. The same hi-hats from the Tomcatt, so the Tomcatt took the same hi-hats from this guy, and a bass synthesizer. It's got its own synth out. It's got its own output. So you're very tempted to output it separately to mix it separately. but that takes it away from the built-in distortion that it also has called howl. And without distortion, this bass line, well, I'll be honest, it sucks. It sucks without distortion. That's what it sounds like. But a distortion pedal behind that line, my God, it can be so massive. Very massive. Especially with the DoD death metal distortion pedal if you can get a hold of one. And if you can, give it to me. Very, very versatile box. Again, I love the sequencer. I love all the hands-on knobs. You know, things are a little too loud or quiet, just bam. You want things a little tuned different? Bam. Simple as that. Here we have the Volca Bass. A very, very powerful little unassuming box. In case you're wondering why mine looks different, it's because there was a cat hair on it and I have a different knob on here. It's more of a Radio Shack style Moog knob. It's a 3 oscillator bass line. You got saw and square wave. It's got a very, very nice filter, all kinds of different features, a nice little sequencer, making a little bloopity bloops. Just headphone out, whoop, sync in and out. Only MIDI in though, and that's really disappointing. But apparently there is a MIDI out mod to this one too. It has a lot of really extra cool features. In fact, it would actually be a pretty powerful synth module if you had something to sequence it. Otherwise, you're kind of stuck with 8 one-bar loops, and that's it. Yes, I believe this thing is fully analog. There's no digital anything about it. Now here we have a very popular piece, the Electron 2, the synth version. I don't have the sampler version. It is a 16-part synth. You know, I don't remember how many voices it has, but it's got at least 16. I think it's got 24, if I'm not mistaken. But the more complex your sound is, each individual sound, especially the synth sounds, the fewer voices you get, which is pretty unfortunate. So you're thinking, oh, I got 16 tracks to work with, and by track 7, you're already losing voices. But still, 7 tracks can give you a lot of stuff going on. You know, 4 drums or 5 drums and 2 or 3 synths. You can do a lot of stuff. It has automation for just about all of its parameters, I believe. And with that, you can make some really, really interesting synth grooves and drum rhythms and unrhythms and such. To be honest with you, I don't like it quite as much as its predecessor, the EMX one. This has a lot of features the EMX doesn't have, but the EMX had some features that I really, really liked. This one only has the stereo outputs. The EMX gave you one additional output, which was great to separate your kick or your bass line or something from the rest of the mix. The EMX2, or EMX1, excuse me, there was never an EMX2. The EMX1 also gave you 8-bar patterns, where this one only gives you 4-bar patterns. And it also had a tube section up here just to distort everything. But this one does have a lot more effects to work with. So it's still a great piece, but I do feel I might soon be replacing it with this, the Novation Circuit. This thing is so much fun to play. I could just play it for hours and hours and hours. When it comes to Electron versus this, when it comes to fun, just straight up fun to play, this beats it. It has a lot less going on in it. Synth-wise, you get to pick from 64 different voices, synth-wise. It's got 2 synth parts and 4 drum parts. You get 64 drums and 64 synths. The drums are actually very, very massive, but unfortunately you only get 2 parameters per drum, which can be a little limiting at first, but once you finally tune in that sound that you think isn't going to be quite enough, it becomes plenty enough. The synths have a lot of power behind them, despite the fact that there's only 8 knobs to control each one of the 64 presets. But what you do, you go in, you think, well, I need kind of a paddy type sound. You look for a pad sound, there's a handful, then you start tweaking until you like something. This also has the same type of automation as a Korg E2 does, except with pretty much every single knob at the same time if you want. So you can get some really, really interesting stuff with this thing. I really love it. It has its downfalls. It's got stereo outputs, but the problem is there is no panning on this machine. 6 different sounds, yet no panning. So everything is just kind of dual mono. You do have different reverb and delay presets that can be used simultaneously, kind of like as a mixer bus, adding a little bit or a lot for each track. That does give it a little bit of a stereo feel, but it's not quite enough. Hopefully that's something they can fix in a later update, but other than that, it's pretty cool. This whole light grid, I mean, it's battery powered, by the way. And there's a battery. And here's all the light. I mean, look at that. Every single button on here just makes the lights go nuts. Maybe I just like light shows a lot. This is a really great piece. I think with some very, very minor updates, it can become a classic. And it's got a blue back, and it's powered by batteries, and it's got a built-in speaker. Take that, Volcas. Now, last but not least, is a very, very powerful box, the Electron Octatrack. This thing pretty much does everything. No, not really. It doesn't do everything. It is a very, very, very deep sampler. It can do live sampling. It can just sequence your samples. It can sequence the samplage out of them. It can do some amazing stuff. It's got a whole bunch of built-in effects per each track. It's got 8 tracks to work with. You can actually make the 8th track a master track. And it's got 4 outputs and 4 inputs to work with. The 4 inputs, you can actually bring in other Grooveboxes and instruments and sequence those. Even if they got their own sequencer running, you can tweak out the parameters and everything and make some amazing, unique sounds. I also enjoy taking some of the stuff that has sequencers but doesn't really have mute on-off buttons, or, you know, to bring in different instruments and stuff, like the Evolver and the drum machine I showed you earlier, the SR16 Circuit. If I sit here and try and tell you all that it can do, it's going to be too long of a video. So if you're interested in doing some really crazy sampled grooves, whether it be loops or one-shots or whatever, and if you have the money, because this is an expensive piece, pick it up and just, oh man, it can do some amazing stuff. Get online, download the manual, get on YouTube, look up some videos, check out Data Line's videos using this thing. And some other guys have got some really, really cool stuff. Also me. So yeah, definitely get online, check out what this thing's about, check out what the whole Electron family is about. 6 different machines, I believe, 7 that they have, and they're all amazing. So that is all my Grooveboxes that I have at the moment. Yeah, at the moment. I really, really enjoy playing with Grooveboxes. They're fun and inspiring. They have everything you need to start making the basics of a track. Depending on what Groovebox, of course. I wouldn't just get the Korg Volca Bass and think you're going to make a whole track. But something like the Circuit or the E2 or the Octatrack back there, you can even make a pretty good beginnings of a track with the Akai Rhythm Wolf. Music is all about fun, and Grooveboxes are a ton of fun, and that's why I play with them the most. Full-blown analog or digital synthesizers are a lot of fun too, but you gotta start connecting the sequencers, and you know, that 3 minutes to 15 minutes of setting everything up can suck the inspiration right out of it. And that is the joy of Grooveboxes. The downfall of Grooveboxes is they normally have to simplify a lot of stuff to make room for everything that they can throw in there. That is why it's important to do a lot of research on the Groovebox you want. Check it out, make sure it can do everything you want it to do. Get online to SoundCloud or whatever and listen to some tracks. Get on a YouTube especially, that way you can see the Groovebox in action. So I want to thank all of you for coming into my studio and checking it out for a 3rd time. A full playlist will be available in the description below. In addition, please check out my other music channel, Down Zero. It has less than 20 subscribers, yet it's a great channel. It's a lot different from the Hardtek channel because it's more music videos and live performances, stuff like that. But just really, really cool videos that I worked a lot on. And hey, cute alien kittens too. Check that out. So, until next time, keep making noise.